and hope everybody had a wonderful summer. I absolutely don't know where summer went, but it definitely went fast. So with that, I will begin with the land acknowledgement that the City of Fort Saskatchewan is located on Treaty 6 territory and Métis Nation of Alberta District 11. We recognize that we stand upon the land that carries the footsteps of many Indigenous peoples, including the Nihilwak, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, and Métis. The city honors the First Peoples of this land and is committed to fostering reconciliation through relationship building, knowledge gathering, and education. And because we do have some people in our audience today, just as housekeeping, if for any reason the alarm should go off in the building, I usually say just follow our staff. They'll know where to get you. But the emergency exit is through the chamber doors or out the back door, and there is a muster point out in the parking lot. But as I said, if you're right in here, just follow our staff and they'll make sure that you're looked after. So that's the housekeeping. So with that, we will begin with the agenda, and we will start with a consent agenda, which we have 3 items on, which are the minutes of July 2nd, July 24th, and August 6th. Councillor Abatoye.
Thank you. I'll make a motion that Council approves the consent agenda as presented.
All right. Thank you very much. Just checking to see if there's any errors or omissions on any of these, or if any need to be split out. If not, I will close the motion and please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Next area that we have is delegations. So if there's anybody present here today who wants to speak to any of the items they could speak to would be the tree planting project or the borrowing bylaw. Other than that, we have a public hearing that's when people will have an opportunity to speak. So not seeing anybody racing up for those 2 items, we will continue on and begin with a public hearing for bylaw C15-24 to amend land use bylaw C23-20. And just so that everybody knows what the process is, you can make your way down. The process will be administration will make the presentation. Following their presentation, council will have an opportunity to ask them questions. After that portion is done, they will step to the side and we will have anybody who wishes to speak for or against the public hearing. They will have an opportunity to do so, and those who are registered will go first. And with each one of those, council will have an opportunity to ask questions. So once that has been concluded, administration will return to the speakers area and answer any final questions. Then I'll close the public hearing and we will go to business arising from the public hearing. So with that, I will open the public hearing at 2:03 and welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Tiago de Souza Jensen, and I'm a Planner 1 here with the City. I'm here to present a brief summary of Bylaw C15-24 to redistrict lands in Windsor Point for a comprehensively planned residential district. Do we have our presentation? Great, thank you. Perfect. So in June of 2024, WSP on behalf of Landrex Inc. applied to redistrict the next phase of the Windsor Point neighborhood from UR, Urban Reserve, to RC, the Comprehensively Planned Residential District. The area is highlighted in light red on the screen. The subject redistricting site is in the undeveloped southwest portion of West Park, east of the Dow Ball Fields in the Windsor Point neighborhood. It is east of Wyatt Ridge, north of a portion of Wynn Road that runs north-south through the central part of the site, and finally it's west of West Park Drive. The purpose of the site is to provide a variety of housing options and encourage diversity of built form within a low-density residential setting. A range of housing types here includes single and semi-detached. Multi-attached may be included under certain conditions. This application seeks to redistrict approximately 3.2 hectares of land to develop low-density housing. The development will connect to West Park Drive, a major collector road, and is in proximity to Wilshire Boulevard, West Park Boulevard, and 95A Avenue, which are major arterials. The development is also in proximity to the major trail networks along the North Saskatchewan River, in and around West River's Edge, as well as the Dow Ball Fields. Planning policies currently in place support the designation of the RC district in Windsor Point. The RC district is consistent with the surrounding stages of the neighborhood and features a density level in line with the character of the neighborhood as well. Next, I'll speak about conformance to the city's planning documents. So this area is subject to 3 planning documents. The Municipal Development Plan designates the West Park area as a developing neighborhood, which designs neighborhoods that are walkable and incorporates a range of housing options for the city's diverse population. The West Park ASP designates this area as low-density residential, and the intent for this area is to provide a variety of housing options, again, for different age and income groups. From the Windsor Point Outline Plan, the subject site is designated as low-density residential, and therefore the proposed rezoning to RC district is in alignment with all the plans noted here. As a result, administration supports the redistricting application due to policies of the MDP, the West Park ASP, and the Windsor Point Outline Plan, and the proposed redistricting application provides for logical residential build-out of the area with low-density housing diversity, good walkability, and finally, it also furthers the completion of West Park ASP. The public hearing was advertised in the Fort Saskatchewan Record for 2 consecutive weeks. Landowners within 100 meters of the proposed redistricting were mailed a notice, and a copy of the proposed bylaw was also available on the city's website. The public hearing was advertised through city social media accounts, and 1 response was received by Planning and Development. At this time, I'd like to answer any questions that council might have for administration. Thank you.
Great, thank you for the presentation. I will open it up for any questions. Councillor Kelly, you're first.
Thank you. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Council received, I think just yesterday, and I'm quite a letter from a citizen over in that area town responding to the proposed development. I've read it. I think it's a good letter, but I also think that you've probably addressed the concerns in there, and that's really my question to you guys. The 5 bullet points listed in the letter, to your understanding and belief, the concerns are adequately addressed?
Yes, so the subdivision is still in review, but all of the 5 points are very much in line with the administration's concerns and are definitely things that we're looking at as well.
So final plan will conform satisfactorily to our guidelines and presumably keep the writer more or less happy?
Through your worship, Councillor Kelly. So at this stage, we're looking at redistricting to RC, which does allow for single detached, semi-detached, and townhousing. So with a subdivision, which would follow the redistricting process, and we do have an application that's in review, and that can change, but it would have a mix of housing type. So what we're dealing with right now, in terms of the redistricting, the RC is consistent with our statutory plans. But like I said, the RC district does allow for a range of housing types.
And if I may, just one last, what's envisioned for this particular area does fit within the neighboring streets, so it will look in place and won't stand out as being abnormal. And
go ahead if you like.
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Kelly. Based on the 2 versions of the subdivision that we've been through so far, we feel that it does represent the existing built form and character of the neighborhood. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? You've put yours off?
I had the same question.
Okay. Okay. It doesn't appear that there's any other questions, so I will have you take a seat. We have 2 that are registered, so one is virtual. That is Parnika Junja. So if you can come online. Is she not there?
We don't have her. No.
No?
No, we don't have her.
Okay.
She's not here yet. She hasn't joined the meeting yet.
Hasn't joined. Okay. Then we will move forward then. Okay. Ray Watkins is pre-registered. So you can come up here and you will have 5 minutes. Just push the button.
Madam Mayor, members of council, thanks for giving me this opportunity to speak. I really don't have anything to say. I'm just here to answer questions, and I'd like to thank council for the expeditious manner in which they brought this item forward, and also for staff because they really put a lot of work into it, and we really appreciate the effort. And that's really it, and answer any questions. I wasn't aware that there was a letter of concern or anything, so I'm not really too sure what the issues are.
Okay, thank you. And perhaps administration can give you a copy of that.
I'd be more than happy to look at that.
Okay, so we've got a couple questions coming up here. So Councillor Harris, you're first.
Mr. Watkins, so in terms of your plans, you know, obviously we're dealing with subdivision at this, or sorry, we're dealing with districting at this point in time. I get that. But is Landrax's plan to, with an appropriate subdivision application into administration being approved, are you proposing to start construction this year?
We're hoping to get construction started this year, but the timelines are pretty tight. So we have to get the engineering drawings approved still, and we have to sign a development agreement. We have to get the contractor secured. We have a contractor secured, but we have to get the timing right. So yeah, the hope is to get it done this year, and that was the push. So we're going to do everything we can to get it built this year. If not, it'll be first thing in the spring.
Yeah, and you're continuing to work on the next phase. There'll be a final
correct.
phase
Yeah.
north of where this is, and that's
I'm going to submit that application in a fairly short period of time, probably within the next month, so we can finish off that area.
Sooner the better, I guess.
Yeah, sooner the better. That's
Okay,
right, because
thanks.
we want to get ahead. We've been behind, I think, in the past, so we want to get ahead, so we don't have to ask you to hurry up everything and to rush everything. We'd like to get far enough ahead that we're kind of working with you instead of asking for favors.
Good, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Blizzard.
I just one question. I think one of the concerns was, you know, what's housing is coming backed onto existing housing. So just north of this is a street that I know because I've walked by their lots. I would call them a little more luxury. They're not huge lots, but definitely nice houses. Do you keep that in mind when you plan future development to maybe put single family homes backing onto that, not a ton of tight townhouses?
Yeah, so we did. We only put townhouses at the kind of far west or east side of that, and the most of that block is single-family homes.
Okay.
Backing on there, yeah.
So you do look at that existing
Correct.
that it kind of complements, not
Correct.
irritates.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We don't really want to irritate anybody who's an existing
Yeah.
resident. That's for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions of Mr. Watkins? Not seeing any. I thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you very much for having me, and have a good rest of the summer.
Great, thank you. We'll be dealing with this shortly. So I will open the floor if there's anybody else who wishes to come and speak in favor or opposed to this bylaw. Don't take our stuff. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody else coming up to the podium, so I'll invite Tiago and Craig back. And I'll just ask if there's any final questions. Councillor Abatoye.
Thank you. Just going back to the subject of multi-unit housing. I remember a few weeks ago we had a situation with Southfort where we're gonna have like apartment buildings behind, you know, large lots. So we don't expect to see this happen later, right? Because I know we have a density targets we have to meet. So are we ensuring that we're actually meeting our targets so as we continue to grow, we don't have to have that situation again?
Through the Mayor to Council Abatoye, absolutely, and the West Park ASP also ensures that multifamily units are serviced by lanes, and there's no way to put a lane behind the existing product on the north side of this district. So we're not expecting to see any multifamily, multi-attached in this area.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harris.
I think where we're going with this is just a sense of comfort, and it goes to the concerns that was expressed by one of the homeowners. So there is a Windsor Point outline plan hot link in our report. Can you bring up that? Because I think that would give an indication of the road layout in that area that would give us a better sense of what the final disposition of housing types will be in that area. Yeah, so that's the outline plan, and that was approved or updated when we made changes to West Park Way or West Park Drive when we went with front facing. Okay, so can you bring that up a little bit more and kind of demonstrate what we're talking about in the current, which is shown there, plus the road network to the north? That's as big as you can get it? Or West Park. Yeah, so that shows what we have here today, the second and third reading to approve, and then eventually Mr. Watkins indicated they will work on the balance of that development area. And so then that will be subject to, again, another subdivision or another planning change and all the things you have to do from a development standpoint. Okay, that's kind of really what we're looking at going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just have to check with our technical people. Who's on? That's not the person who had registered, is it?
We have the person that registered now online.
Okay. In fairness, then I think we can go back. You can just sit there. That's fine. All right. So, Parnika, can you just raise your hand so I can see who you are? You're over there. Okay. You actually missed the registered part. So, but I will go back since I do have you on there now.
Yes, thank you.
Can you just turn the can you just turn the camera so it's on you?
Yes.
Okay, and everybody gets you get 5 minutes to speak. So I need you to say your name, your address, and if you're in favor or opposed, that's our process.
Hello everyone. My name is Parnika Janeja, and I am a resident of 85 Wyatt Ridge. I am opposing I'm in opposition of the topic today.
Okay, you can go ahead and speak. Do you have anything to say about it?
Yes, and we're all neighbors here from the same community. We are the homes on, if you were to look at the map, we are the homes that are on the west side of the development that's going to be happening, the single family homes. Our major concern and the only concern here is the possibility of having multi-family units behind us, directly behind us, just because that would bring in a lot of traffic for them to be able to kind of look into our homes at that point, and also make it difficult for us to be able to sell our homes in the future because the value of the properties would definitely be affected if we have multi-family units right behind our homes. And we're also concerned about the aesthetic of the community. I know some of the points have been mentioned before, but all of us are very concerned about us backing on directly to multifamily units.
Okay, you're good? Okay, I'll just ask. Okay, does council have any questions of her? Councillor Kelly?
A quick question. Were any members of your group tuned into the council meeting before you signed in? Because I think this question has already been addressed. And if you saw the responses, I'd like you to indicate whether or not you found those satisfactory.
So we were in the middle of a technical difficulty here, so we couldn't be very attentive to whatever was said in the past. But we would like to kind of reinforce this because our decisions of buying these homes are very dependent on the community that's being built around us. And so since we are new residents of the community, we would like to know a little bit more about the plans, please.
Okay, well, tell you what, I get a question period after you're done. So I will ask your question again regarding what will be behind your properties. So stay tuned, please.
Okay, so if you are finished, then I will go back to administration. We were actually asking them their questions. So Councillor Kelly, if you want, you can re-ask the questions so that they can actually hear the answer.
Perfect, and I will. Thank you. To administration and perhaps the gentleman that spoke on behalf of the developer, I'll leave it up to you, Mayor Catcher.
Watkins.
You've heard the concern. I think we've addressed it, but I'd like you to restate that your responses backing west to the properties that already exist to the west of the proposed development. What type of housing form do you see going in there, or are you planning on placing in there?
Do you want to answer that, Craig, or would you like Mr. Watkins to?
Yeah, I can answer that through the mayor to Councillor Kelly. As on the north side, as I mentioned before, the same is true with the west side of the development, that the only way that multifamily would be able to be put in based on West Park ASP is if we could get a lane. We can't get a lane on either side, and so we're not anticipating seeing any multi-attached anywhere backing onto existing properties at all.
Okay. Your Worship, if I can just add to that as well, on the outline plan, it does show that the properties that would be backing on to those on Wyatt Ridge are on a eyebrow. So it's the type of road layout that would really only accommodate for pie-shaped single detached lots. So it's actually kind of the best case scenario, because you're actually going to get the wide part of the lot that's going to be backing onto those particular lots.
Okay, thank you. Good.
Mayor Catcher, I'd like to put this to bed. Did that answer your concerns?
Yes, thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Okay, thank you. Councillor Harris, did you have questions of administration?
Well, I think this lady made the indication that she lives on Wyatt Ridge, which is not adjacent to where the existing houses on West Park Drive are. She's down further south, and if I'm looking at this particular map, Wyatt Ridge is further to the south, and there is lane product in there. So I need her to clarify exactly where she lives in relation to this map.
So we are, all four of us here are residents of Wyatt Ridge homes that are single family, backing on to the area that has nothing on it at the moment. So my address would be 85 Wyatt Ridge. That is just as you come on to the Wyatt Ridge lane. It's on one of the corner properties. It's a single family home.
So you are so you are adjacent to that green space that's shown on that map, which then has a connection into the trails adjacent to the ball diamonds. Is that correct? You're in that area? So it's kind of the northern part of development that Landrex is doing right now. Is that correct?
I don't think so.
So if I can show it to you, I have the map that was mailed out to us. This is the area being built, and we are these homes here.
Okay. Yeah, so there's no lane. So it's, as administration indicated, that will be single family development of a comparable nature from a built form and from a lot size. Is that correct?
Through your Worship, Councillor Harris, yeah, I just confirmed on our address map that the respondents' lots would be backing onto the lots which would be off of that eyebrow, which would most likely be pie-shaped single detached.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully that answers the question or addresses the concern.
Okay. Great, thank you. Are there any other questions of administration? So you can stay tuned. We will be dealing with this as soon as the public hearing closes. Not seeing any additional questions, I am going to close the public at 2:24, and we will go into business arising from the public hearing. So go ahead.
Thank you. So the recommended motion from administration is that council give second reading to bylaw C15-24 to amend land use bylaw C23-20. And the second is that council give third reading to bylaw C15-24 to amend land use bylaw C23-20.
Okay, thank you. Okay, what is the wish of council? Councillor Nguyen, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll read the motion in. So I'll move that council give second reading to bylaw C15-24 to amend land use bylaw C23-20 by redistricting a portion of Southwest Quarter 2454-23 Lot B, Block 25, Plan 0426931 and Block A, Plan 1723259 from UR Urban Reserve to RC Comprehensively Planned Residential District. That was a lot of numbers.
Great, thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I think both administration and the developer have done an excellent job in answering the questions and concerns of residents and council equally. I believe this type of pocket with low density absolutely fits best in this area. I'm looking forward to the development of it to complete the Windsor Point West Park area structure plan.
Great, thank you. You can just I'll open it up for discussion and debate. Okay, not seeing any. Then I will, anything on close?
Nothing on close.
All right, thank you. I'll close the motion for second reading. Please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously. You can proceed. Go ahead.
I'll move that council give third reading to bylaw C15-24 to amend land use bylaw C23-20 by redistricting a portion of Southwest Quarter 2454-23 Lot B, Block 25, Plan 0426931 and Block A, Plan 1723259 from UR Urban Reserve to RC Comprehensively Planned Residential District.
Thank you. Do you have anything further to speak in favor?
Nothing to add.
All right. Any further discussion and debate? Not seeing any. Anything on close?
Nothing on close.
Nothing on close. All right. The motion is now closed for third reading. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, we will continue on. Thank you very much. The next one we have is new business 7.1, Growing Canada's Community Canopies Tree Planting Project, Janelle Hart and Kyle Waite.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Kyle Waite, and I am the Park Services Coordinator for the City of Fort Saskatchewan. With me today is Janelle Hart, the Park Services Manager. The purpose of this report is to request Council's support of the City's application to the Green Municipal Fund's Growing Canada's Community Canopies Grant Program, and to commit matching funding should the grant application be successful. On May 28, 2024, Council adopted the Urban Forest Protection and Enhancement Plan as a guiding document. This document has provided administration with strategies, guiding principles, priorities, and timelines for tree planting opportunities within the community that will effectively serve the community in both the short and long term. As a result of the Urban Forest Plan for actionable items, administration began research into grant opportunities to support additional tree planting. What we found was the Green Municipal Fund's Growing Canada's Community Canopies is a program funded by the Government of Canada and delivered by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. The program supports projects that contribute to incremental tree planting in and around population centres. Funding is allocated as a matching grant covering 50% of eligible project costs. Public Works has reviewed the funding guidelines and submitted a pre-qualifying application, which was received with positive response from a funding representative. The next grant funding application deadline is October 15th, 2024, and the full application requires a funding commitment and council motion supporting the city's application to this grant. As a result of the grant opportunity, a tree planting project was developed. Tree planting is planned to take place in the fall season of 2025 and 2026, with suitable locations becoming home to over 600 trees. Trees will be both large caliper and small seedlings planted over 20 locations throughout the city. The planting will provide the community with an increased canopy volume, as well as create aesthetically pleasing destinations to further evolve as the trees grow. These locations and general plans can be found in the Appendix A of the report. Administration recommends that Council support the City of Fort Saskatchewan grant application under the Green Municipal Fund Growing Canada's Community Canopies Program for the 2025-2026 tree planting project, and that Council approve a maximum of $250,000 to fund the 2025-2026 tree planting project, to be funded $125,000 from the Green Municipal Fund Growing Canada's Community Canopies Grant Program, and $125,000 of municipal funding to be included as a one-time funding item in the 2025 City of Fort Saskatchewan budget, and furthermore, that the city's contribution be contingent on receipt of the grant. This wraps up our presentation, and we're here to answer any questions and hear your feedback. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to jump in first if that's okay. So the question, you show it in parks and different areas. Are you going to be able to use any of these trees if it's approved into the boulevards? Because I see a lot of boulevards are stumps. We're getting a lot of stumps in boulevards.
Yeah, to your worship, we do still have a program within the Parks Department that identifies when we remove or prune boulevard trees. So this program will continue to replace those. This tree planting project was to focus more on ideal locations within the city, more in the open spaces than on the boulevards.
Okay, and then my second question. So when we're doing construction projects, is there any way to salvage those trees? I was quite devastated at a certain corner when there's a whole bunch of trees just bulldozed down. And yet we talk about saving our trees. So is there no way we can save those, or would they have died anyway?
To your worship, we do our best to try and save as many trees as possible, and we also look at alternative adjustments within the engineering specifications of a project to ensure that a tree can remain, and sometimes it's just unfortunate that they have to be removed.
Okay. All right. Councillor Kelly, questions?
Yes, thank you. I like the report, and I truly support the thinking. I really do. One small comment. I question spending any money to put a tree or any trees at the existing harbor pool, given that it's not likely to have a long lifespan. I'll ask a series of questions, and then you guys can jump in. Of the 600 roughly the trees that this program is expected to plant, roughly how many will be caliper and how many will be seedling? And in that discussion, can you please describe to council what a seedling tree is and what a caliber tree is? And then lastly, tell me why, or tell council why, on average, it's still $400 a tree to get this program done over the next couple of years. Those are all my questions. Have at her.
Through your worship to Councillor Kelly. So the difference between the caliper and the seedling trees, the calipers, they come in the large root ball, they're planted, they're substantially sized trees. Typically they come in a 60 millimeter width, so the width of the trunk at breast height will be 60 millimeters, so they're substantial trees. Seedlings will definitely be smaller, like reforestation style plantings. The idea behind the seedlings is to place them in areas that they'll be sheltered by larger caliper trees around them, and they are a cheaper planting opportunity within the project. Within the project, it's split half and half. So 300 of the trees will be caliper, and 300 of the trees will be seedling. And yet, was there anything else to that?
The cost per tree.
The cost per tree, that's identified within the urban forest protection plan. So we took the number, I believe it's, it's different between the caliper and the seedlings. But it comes out to, so the cost to purchase the tree as well as maintain it for the 2 years. And there is a difference between those. The calipers will definitely cost more long-term than the seedlings.
How much more? Approximately. Give us a ballpark answer. Is a caliper 10 times the price of a seedling or 2 times the price of a seedling?
Through your worship to Councillor Kelly, it's I can get back to you with a more exact number, but a caliper tree, you're looking at, I believe that they're listed within the urban forest protection plan at $600, and seedlings you can come in at anywhere between $5 and $10.
Okay, yeah, if you can follow up, that would be great. Okay, thank you. I'll move on to Councillor Blizzard.
Thanks. I really like this plan. I like to see new trees going in, but I had the same concerns, and I'm actually going to ask for answers about the Harbor Pool area. So I saw that there's some being planted. I assume that's considerations given that with a new pool, Harbor Pool may not be there. So is that more because of the skate park that's next door?
Through your worship, Councillor Blizzard. So that played a part. Some shelter belt between the pool that's existing and the skateboard park, as well as the green space kind of behind the pool itself. Initially, it came up as a possible location for replanting because there were some trees on that location that were removed this year. So it was a site that was identified as a possible location, but we can definitely adjust those as we move forward.
Yeah, I'm not asking for adjustment if necessary, but I think you must also look at future development or undevelopment, if that's the case, when considering these areas, right?
Yeah, through your worship, Councillor Blizzard, we want to be able to plant trees in places where they're going to have a long-term home and not see future development where they possibly may be taken out through construction or reuse of that space. So Harbor Pool is definitely one of the ones. It was more so just identified as an area that we removed some trees and we'd like to replace them, as well as add some shelter belt between the pool itself and the skateboard park.
Okay, and one more. After these trees are planted, do you look at the watering schedule? Because saplings especially, but even the mature trees, when we have a dry time, once a week is not going to be adequate. We're going to see lots of them die. So do we have a plan to make sure that we lose minimum amount?
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Blizzard, as part of the grant application, we actually have to also submit a maintenance plan for 2 years for all of these trees.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Abatoye.
Thank you for your presentation. Councillor Blizzard asked my first question. And that was going to be about maintenance and, because, the trees are vulnerable in the first initial stages, so you do have a maintenance plan, so that's great to hear. My other question is about the type of trees you've chosen. Do we have those types of trees already in our program? And is the reason you've chosen those trees is to contribute to our biodiversity of the urban forest? Like, why have you chosen those specific trees?
Through your worship to Councillor Abatoye, those trees they were all identified within the urban forest protection plan as suitable trees for our location. So they should have a good chance at growth and establishment. They are also all species that will help diversify the current canopy that we have. So we're not increasing our high percentage of ash and elm trees. Knowing that elm and ash, they do a good job of surviving, but we want to also create a community where we have an abundance of different species and not just reliant on one or two.
Right. So, okay, great. So diversity, that's important. Thank you. My second question is more of a financial question. So the 125,000 we talked about, it's coming from the operating budget. So the source of that fund is a one-time, so I'm assuming it's going to be coming from a reserve and not from property taxes.
Through your mayor to Councillor Abatoye. So at this time, we haven't determined the funding source, but through the budget process this fall, we'll work with finance to determine that and finalize it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harris.
So looking at the the pictorial map you've got of the Windsor Point Road, we built that a few years ago, and we've only planted about, I don't know, 9 or 10 conifer trees along those typically. Are those 20 caliper and 40 seedlings? Are you proposing to put those individually just for kind of spacing to break up kind of the open area? Or are you looking at kind of bed type plantings, with the seedlings?
Through your worship to Councillor Harris, the seedling plantings would definitely, they have a better chance at survivability by being planted in group settings. So we would definitely be looking at group settings for those. The larger caliper trees we would use as opportunities to fill in open space as well as create shelter for seedlings.
Okay. Second question is, so in any of these areas, so this is a tree planting program at this point in time with funding to be determined, obviously, and through a grant, but most of these areas will continue to see trees planted as we go forward. Is that a fair assessment? So it's not at one stop, and it's all done. There's more to come, in other words.
Through your worship to Councillor Harris, that's fair. We would definitely be looking at these spaces regardless. This just provides us with a unique opportunity to do a lot in a quick period of time.
Yeah. The reason I ask that is because when I look at that Windsor Point Road, obviously we built that. It's a great access down into the river valley, and having a good tree canopy through that area would be really nice. And so it's an ongoing process is kind of where I was going. Okay, thanks. You've answered the question.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Macon.
Thank you. I think I only have one question left that wasn't asked already. Do we know if we have the ability to change locations after the grant has been approved, or is it stricter than that?
Through your worship to Councillor Macon, there is definitely flexibility within the grant process. They've been open to change as needed.
We're not stuck with this if we decide. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before I go into round two, Janelle Smith-Dugan has advised she does have an answer to Councillor Kelly's question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was able to look up the cost of the trees in the urban forest plan, and to purchase, plant, and maintain the trees for 2 years, a seedling costs $45, where the larger trees can cost between $750 and $825.
Okay, I'll go to Councillor Blizzard first, and then if you have any further, you can ask. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do have one more question, and then if it's okay, I can make the motion. So when you look at this, I was reading stuff about the fire in Jasper that we're familiar with now. They said one of the reasons that made it into as big and bad a fire is because of, and I can't remember which one it was, but it was either spruce or pine. One of them burns a lot quicker in fires like this. So do we look into that, what with our plantings, to try and make an area, yes, when you're planting a tree, there's a risk, but do we make it as safe as possible should something go through the area?
Through your worship to Councillor Blizzard, we do, absolutely. So there's different spacing recommendations that they provide through the Fire Smart program. That's not necessarily a lens that we're applying here, but some of the planting applications we would look and take that into consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm not seeing any additional questions, so if you want to make the motions, go ahead.
Sure. I'll make a motion that council support the City of Fort Saskatchewan grant application under the Green Municipal Funds Growing Canada's Community Canopies program for the 2025-2026 tree planting project. And in speaking to that, I think it's always wonderful to have more trees as we burn or drive our cars. That all helps to keep the environment as good as we can.
All right, thank you. The motion is open for discussion and debate. Not seeing anything on close?
No.
All right, I'll close the motion. Please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously. You can go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that council approve a maximum of $250,000 to fund the 2025-2026 tree planting project, to be funded $125,000 from the Green Municipal Funds Growing Canada's Community Canopies grant program. That is a tongue twister. And $125,000 of municipal funding to be included as a one-time funding item in the 2025 City of Fort Saskatchewan budget, and further that the city's contribution be contingent upon receipt of the grant funding. And in speaking to that, yes, if we don't get it, I guess we'll have to reevaluate, but I definitely think this is a good project.
All right, thank you. The motion is open for discussion and debate. Councillor Kelly?
One very quick question. This particular program referenced here, is that a program that grew out of the federal government's promise for 2 billion trees or something like that across Canada? Is it? Thank you.
Okay, being that we're live streamed, you should probably say yes on there.
Through your worship to Councillor Kelly, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, not seeing any other discussion and debate. Anything on close, Councillor Blizzard?
No.
All right, thank you. The motion is closed. Please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, the next one is bylaw C13-24, borrowing bylaw for aquatics facility detailed design for 3 readings. Shannon Andruko and Paul Lasoy-Sanyo. Shannon and Paul.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Council. I'm Paul Olusanya, Senior Accountant, Community and Protective Services. And with me is Shannon Andruko, Manager, Budget and Planning. I'm here today to present the information regarding the bylaw C13-24 for the purpose of detailed design of new aquatic facilities. As a result of Council's approval of $5.4 million for the aquatic planning and construction in the 2024 budget and the requirement of the Municipal Government Act, a borrowing bylaw must be passed before borrowing can be made for the detailed design of the new aquatic facilities. Once Council gives 3 readings to the bylaw C13-24, administration can proceed with borrowing for the first phase of the project, which is the detailed design. The borrowing bylaw is in the amount to not exceed $5.4 million as per approved 2024 capital budget. The borrowing will be from the city's existing line of credit. The estimated cost of debt servicing at today's interest rate of 6.2% is approximately $334,800 per annum. The actual borrowing cost, which is the interest payment, will depend on the bank's prime rate at the time of drawing. Municipal Government Act 274 states that advertisement is not required for this borrowing bylaw as it is related to capital projects in the budget, and the term of borrowing is less than 5 years. Therefore, the recommendation is that the council give all 3 readings to bylaw C13-24 to incur debt up to 5.4 million for the detailed design of the new aquatic facilities. Thank you, and I will welcome questions and comments.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, Paul. I'll open it up for questions. Councillor Kelly.
Good afternoon. Quick question. The annual interest payments that will accrue on this borrowing, Shannon, will they be expensed annually and funded through the property tax stream, or will they be capitalized and form a part of the overall cost of the pool and funded through debenture?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Through your worship to Councillor Kelly, so the plan is to service the interest during the design phase, and when the whole project is approved, it will be rolled into the debenture, which will be serviced annually through the revenue, to the tax revenue.
I'm not sure I understood. I think you said that the annual interest would be serviced, I assume, through property tax, which means it's funded out of operations as opposed to capitalized. Help me understand, please.
The plan will be to borrow from the reserve to pay the interest payment. And once we roll it into the bigger borrowing of the 50 million, we'll pay back the reserve for that interest.
That makes it clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Batoye.
Thank you for your presentation. I was curious to know, what is the city's existing line of credit limit, and how much have we drawn so far on that limit?
Through your worship to Councillor Bitoye, we have 2 line of credit. One of them with one of the banks is 20 million, and in both we've not drawn any, as far as I know.
Okay, so the balance is 0. Thank you.
Yeah.
The second question is about the design. So maybe Grant can answer this question. But what is the expected timeline for completion of the detailed design, and when do we expect to see the project move to construction phase?
Your Worship, to Councillor Batoye, we'll be speculating a little bit with the timelines because we don't have contractors or consultants on board yet. We're hoping to come back with for a council approval to move to construction late 2025, early 26, depending on where things come in, and then construction would follow as quickly after that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, probably further question for you, Grant. Just for clarity and for the public's sake as well. So what all can we expect for the design work for $5.4 million, and will there be room in the contract for amendments, as we were discussing public engagement opportunity for design for a new aquatics facility? So, yeah, I guess, how amenable is the consultant going to be for any changes, and is that going to be above or included in the 5.4 million?
Your Worship, to Councillor Nguyen, so a lot of the details are still being worked out. We're still very early in this process. The intent is that with the project delivery method we're using, that we'll have an engagement process probably early in the new year, to look at some of the amenities that we talked about earlier in council and see how those could fit or would fit, and then what can be worked into design, coming back to council to make sure that those are things they want, what those costs are. And then it would be coming back to council approval quite early in what would be considered a design process, as a standard design process. But the delivery model, the integrated project delivery model, lets us lock in the costing much earlier in the design process. So we'll see things a little bit earlier, but it's still going to take some time to get there.
Okay, great. So from my understanding then, we'll hear back from you regarding public engagement and be able to provide feedback at that point, then once more with sort of a draft design, and then leave it to your hands for an approval of the drawings, basically. So we're involved in 3 more steps prior to signing and sealing what our new aquatics facility will look like.
Your worship, Council Noyan, at least 2. We'll see about if we have to come back twice for public engagement or just once, but yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just a quick question. We're going with a line of credit versus an actual debenture borrowing because it's a shorter time frame to pay it off as opposed to like a number of years.
That is correct.
Okay.
Because it is short term, and we have a plan on if the construction does go ahead, we'll roll it into that borrowing bylaw.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, not seeing in. Oh, okay, go ahead.
So I'm coming back to you, Grant. So typically a design process, what's the timeline?
Your worship, Councillor Batoye, so I think if we did a standard design bid build where you 100% design the project before you get contractors, you'd probably be looking at 18 months of design work. But after you get the consultant on board, to get to final and start the tender process, those kinds of things. With this process, design's still going to take that 18 months to get to a point where you can start construction, but we can nail down the price much earlier in the process. So we can the builder, the designer, and the city will enter a contract at a point where everybody understands what the project is, what the scope of the project is, and it'll lay out the cost, the timelines, and the deliverables at that point. So we'll have a signed contract earlier in the process. Design still takes the time design takes, but it hoping to take risk out of it by bringing everybody in early.
So could we say that the risk of extending this project to another council, there's a risk of it not moving forward with a new council? So is it possible for the design process to be finished within this council term?
Your worship, the Councillor Batoye, I would.
It's a real risk, right?
I understand that, but I think we would compromise the project if we tried to rush it to that point. I think the best process is to let the design, unfortunately, take the time it does, but we'll try to get back to council as quick as we can, but I can't promise before end of term.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Councillor Harris. You haven't weighed in yet.
So are you anticipating a construction manager at risk process on this, where ultimately we would have a higher degree of buy-in by the major contractor?
Your worship, Councillor Harris, it's a similar process, but it's technically integrated project delivery. So it's just a different contract model, but it's very similar to that.
So when we built the DCC, we did a similar thing because obviously we had an architect, and then we had a general contractor on board initially. So was that the similar kind of process?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, yeah, that seemed to work pretty well. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And round 2, Councillor Kelly.
Yeah, you caught my attention with those comments too, Grant. I sincerely hope that the contracts you were alluding to do not commit the city to build something before council has a chance to review the final design and the price.
Your worship, Councillor Kelly, that's correct. We will have, I guess, 2-stage contracts. The first one is to get through detailed design to what they call the validation study. Validates the project, the cost, and all the deliverables. That's what we'll be coming back to council with. Once council approves that, then we're full into to build. So there won't be there if council says no at that point, then we're done at that point.
So, as opposed to the construction at risk, where you enter into an understanding to start construction even though you haven't fully fleshed out the final parameters, is my understanding at least. This program sounds almost like a design build. What's the difference? Help me understand.
Your Worship, the Councillor Kelly. So, integrated project delivery is it's a process where we're bringing on the contractor and the design team at the start. It's a collaborative project so that everybody's working together to come to the best design, most buildable design, the most economic, best quality that we're looking for. It's a contract difference, a legal contract difference. So in a construction manager at risk situation, we have a contract direct with the designer and with the contractor, individual contracts with each, laid out those parameters, and we're at risk for any contract overruns, for change orders, things like that. In the IPD model, we agree on what the cost is, and we agree on what a contingency and a profit pool are. And the contract we sign is between all three parties sign the same contract. So the city is responsible for costs, as we would be in any project. But any change orders or any cost overruns, deficiencies come out of contingency and profit before they start increasing the cost of the project. So when we come back to council, we'll come back with this is the cost of the project, including contingency and profit. And so before anything can go above that, there'll be zero left in contingency and zero left in profit for the other two parties. So it's a slight difference, but it is, we think it's a more collaborative way to do this type of project.
Well, if I understand what you said correctly, I would agree with you. So just to confirm one more time, there will be no commitment to build until we have this completely fleshed out and the community, and more importantly, council gets a second chance at looking at the ultimate cost and the ultimate design.
Your Worship, to Councillor Kelly, that's correct.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, this question might seem a bit out of left field, but so we're designing a new concept for a swimming pool. It's going to be a unique design. There's probably 10, 12 swimming pools that have been built in the last 2 years between maybe Alberta and BC. Why can't we buy a design of an existing pool and build that exact same thing and save $4 million? Recosting, of course, for the current cost of construction and materials.
Your Worship, the Councillor Nguyen. So there's the few issues there, and we will be doing those kinds of things. We'll be looking at what was done in other locations and borrowing and taking what we can and see what works. But designs are unique to the area, and they can't be moved. Like, I can't just copy somebody else's blueprints, more or less. It all has to be redone. The design that's done that's stamped for that location and that location only. So to move it here, all that work needs to be redone. All the calculations need to be done. So you could move it, but it would still have to come back and you have to do the full redesign again.
It's impossible to purchase blueprints or drawings from an existing building.
Your Worship, to Councillor Nguyen, it's my understanding of the way the engineering and the architecture world works is that they are specific to a location. You can poach the existing plans as much as you can in terms of layouts and concepts, but the actual detailed design becomes unique to the location.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Round 3, Councillor Kelly.
The monies that we're borrowing, or the borrowing bylaw, the monies that will be coming from that, they will fund the architect and the engineering. They're going to fund that whole collaborative design process that you're referring to, Grant?
Your Worship, Councillor Kelly, that's correct.
So it's not just architect's fees. There's some engineering fees built into that, and whatever else, geotechnical, whatever else is necessary to come up with final cost, final plan.
Your Worship, Councillor Kelly, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That appears to be all the questions. What is the wish of council? Councillor Macon.
I can make the motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion that council give first reading to bylaw C13-24, authorizing the city to incur indebtedness by withdrawing from the city's existing line of credit up to the amount of $5.4 million for the purpose of financing the detailed design of the new aquatic facilities project.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion?
I will. Council already approved this borrowing, so it's exciting to see us put a stamp on it and get the next step going for the community. I know the community is going to be excited to see it as well.
Okay, thank you. It's open for discussion and debate. I do have one more question favor to ask. Because this is being brought forward for 3 readings, can you explain, if the public is listening and watching, the difference between how we can give 3 readings to this as opposed to 3 readings on an actual debenture borrowing bylaw?
To your worship, for the debenture borrowing, the term of borrowing is usually more than 5 years. And from the Municipal Government Act, any borrowing more than 5 years, we require public hearing. Because this, we are looking at it in short term, and based on the same act, MGA 274 is less than 5 years, so we don't need to advertise or require public hearing for it.
Okay, thank you. I actually knew the answer to that, but I just feel it's important if anybody goes back in or we're questioned about it later as to why we can give 3 readings to this today if we choose to. Did you have your hand up? No? Okay. Thank you very much. All right, Councillor Harris, on discussion and debate.
So the clarification there is that council can give 3 readings to any bylaw for any purpose, and this is a clarification from Legislative Services, but it has to do so following unanimous consent, which we have here. So any bylaw can be done that. Is that kind of what you were getting at?
No, mine was the question that if we got asked why was there not an opportunity for the public to actually go forward and bring a petition forward against a borrowing bylaw. So this is different. No, I understand the 3 reading consent.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. It's just the way you framed it. So, okay. Thanks for that clarification.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so on first reading, Councillor Macon, do you have anything on close?
I do not.
All right, so on the first reading, please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously. You may proceed with second.
I'll make the motion that council give second reading to bylaw C13-24, authorizing the city to incur indebtedness by withdrawing the city's existing line of credit up to the amount of $5.4 million for the purpose of financing the detailed design of the new aquatic facilities project.
Thank you. Do you have anything further to speak in favor?
Nothing further, thanks.
Thank you. Anything further on discussion and debate? Not seeing any. I will close the motion. Please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously. Go ahead.
Sorry, I keep having to make it big again. Okay. The council give unanimous consent to proceed with third reading of bylaw C13-24, authorizing the city to incur indebtedness by withdrawing from the city's existing line of credit up to the amount of $5.4 million for the purpose of financing the detailed design of the new aquatic facilities project.
Thank you. I'll close the motion on consent. Please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously, and you may proceed.
I'll make the motion that council give third reading to bylaw C13-24, authorizing the city to incur indebtedness by withdrawing from the city's existing line of credit up to the amount of $5.4 million for the purpose of financing the detailed design of the new aquatic facilities project.
Thank you. Do you wish to speak to anything further?
No, thanks.
Thank you. Anything on discussion and debate? Not seeing anything. I will close the motion. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. All right. Next one is, are there any notice of motions? Okay, not seeing any. Points of interest? Everybody. Oh, okay. Councillor Harris, you're first.
Just wanted to report that I attended an open house at the Claypool Waste Management Facility in Riley last week. They had an open house to showcase their new composting facility that they've developed adjacent to their landfill, huge landfill down there. And it was quite interesting to see what they're doing, and I think they're trying to grow their business to take more organic material. And in the face of the city of Edmonton's having to tear theirs down, it'll be interesting to see kind of how that facility goes forward in terms of green organic composting going forward. So it was really quite interesting.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Abatoye.
Thank you. So I just wanted to report to council that over the summer I attended a conference called the Canadian Congress of Black Parliamentarians, now changed to Black politicians because other levels of government were invited to the table. So federal, provincial, municipal, as well as school board trustees. And at this conference from August 7th to 9th, there were 60 Black politicians from across Canada, coast to coast to coast, different levels of governments gathered on Parliament Hill to discuss critical issues impacting Black Canadian communities. And, we shared and learned about just the different experiences faced by Black Canadians and the challenges that continue to persist. At this meeting, we fostered a national dialogue through an integrated approach, which includes all levels of government and academia, aiming to improve educational and healthcare systems, enhance community and economic development. And all 60 members of the Canadian Congress of Black Politicians jointly affirmed our commitment to capacity building, disaggregated data and Black perspectives, healthcare and well-being, as well as community engagement and cultural preservation. For me personally, I think it was it was a wonderful experience. And as a matter of fact, historic, in that all Black politicians gathered together to plant a tree in the residence of the first Black Speaker of the House, in his residence in Quebec, which was, like I said, historic. And some action points that were taken from there was we're going to be building or creating a caucus province-wide for politicians to deal with issues that are faced by Black communities. And I personally have lived here in Fort Saskatchewan for 12 years, and I know that when I first moved here, there was just very few of us, but now I turn to the left and the right, I'm seeing a lot more Black people in our community, and I'm just thinking of ways that we can continue to support these groups and the challenges they face. So I just wanted to report that this coalition has been formed for 10 years now, but the other levels of government were just invited a couple years ago. So it was really a pleasure to be in attendance and to learn, from other members. And I think I'll just give a quick example. One example is diabetes, for example. Just going to give a simple example. Diabetes right now for men is screened at 40 years old, but actually men who are from Asian or Black heritage should get screening before they're 40. But because they're just issues that are specific to these groups that needs to be attended to, basically. And so just wanted to report that, and I'm just really grateful that I attended that conference. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I would just like to, for myself, thank the park staff, facilities, actually all the staff. There's a lot going on in the community over the summer. It feels like I've been down to Legacy Park and all the parks on a regular basis. So your staff have done an incredible job. Movie Under the Stars was just unbelievable. It was so cute and everybody had a good time. So, you know, when we host these events in our downtown, people really come out and support them. So it really speaks to what sense of community is. And I talked to so many people who have moved here from Edmonton and a few other communities and just said they love our community because they do have a sense of community and belonging. So it was a really good field time. Reminder, the sheep are leaving on Monday, correct? They're okay. Yeah, I'm seeing some head nods. So make sure that if you have time, come on out and visit the sheep for a last time. And just as an FYI, the Lieutenant Governor is coming out for a visit on Thursday, and she is very anxious to meet with the sheep and the shepherd and a few other things that are happening in Fort Saskatchewan. So we are going to have a real celebrity in our presence. So some good news happening and lots of great stuff. So pass on my accolades to the staff, and the flowers they brought around on my Facebook had almost 40,000 reach. So people really, really love to see those positive stories. So thank you. All right. Any councillor inquiries of administration? Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, thanks. I just had a question, perhaps for Grant or Janelle, just in regards to the pavement milling overlay between Highway 15 and the fire station. With that section of road in our capital budget to be replaced, or sorry, widened, and the underpass to be built in, I believe, 4 or 5 years from now, why was it deemed essential? I understand pavement quality index, but essential to do that work now and not kind of keep it adequate until the time where it could have been all done at once. And question has come to me from neighbors and I think has been circulating as well around Facebook. And obviously there's some construction fatigue with everything going on in the fort right now. But specifically, yeah, that section, if you could give some information or insight.
For sure. I can take a crack at it, and Mr. Schaefer may be able to add some details when I'm done. That work that's being done is part of the local road rehab program. That section of highway, because it has such heavy traffic and such a high volume of traffic, it gets replaced more often than other road surfaces. We did delay that project a couple years in the hope that we could group it with the neighborhood or with the widening project. But now that the widening project has been delayed until 2029, we felt that the quality of the pavement wasn't in good enough shape to make it that long. So we opted to undertake the work this year.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you. And that's kind of what I assumed as well. Obviously, it is going to be seeing more volume of traffic in the next few years. I don't think it would have made it till 2029. So just for anybody listening and that answer.
Okay. Councillor Harris, question?
With the Heritage Trails Park that is nearing construction, it's looking pretty good. Somebody walked through there about a week ago, and then I ran into them at the Dow, and they asked, why do we have so many concrete pads placed along the trail? They were quite surprised that there would be that many city nodes or picnic table sightings down in that area, given the fact that you have to ride a bike or walk down there. How many, and this is something you can get back to us on because I didn't have a copy of the design, how many picnic tables and seating nodes are actually in that park? And when will it be wrapped up?
To your worship, we can provide those details to council in a follow-up email.
Great, thanks. Yeah, it's no rush. It was just something that was a matter of interest to somebody.
Okay, thank you. So before I take a motion to go in camera, I'll just remind everybody that we are going to go in camera. We have one item that we will be discussing, and then we will come out of in camera briefly to deal with that item. So you have a choice of using your iPad or not, but we will be coming back out of in camera and then going back into in camera to deal with the rest of the items. So with that, I will take a motion to go in camera. Councillor Macon, you're first.
I'll make the motion that we go in camera for reasons covered under FOIP.
Okay, thank you very much. Close the motion. Please cast your vote. Okay, and that is carried unanimously, so we will return shortly. All right, we will return to open session, and we do have business arising out of the closed session. So with that, we do need a motion. Councillor Harris, go ahead.
I would be pleased to move that the sponsorship and naming rights term sheet is approved as attached as Appendix A to the sponsorship and naming rights agreement, closed session report of August 27, 2024, and that the administration carry out the actions as set out in Appendix E of the report, and that the report remain confidential pursuant to Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy Act, Section 29, Sub 1.
Thank you very much. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, we're moving in the right direction, and I think this will be very positive for our community.
Okay, thank you. And my comments just on this is that the information will be forthcoming within the next couple weeks, that the public will have more information on it. Okay.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, thank you. I'll close the motion. Please cast your vote.
You have to be an open.
Just, you can use your card if you want. Yeah. Just use your card. Just use your card. Do you have your card? Okay, it is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So as I said, more information will be forthcoming in the weeks to follow. So with that, I will take a motion, okay, another motion, because we have to return to in camera. So I need a motion to in camera for the items listed under FOIP. Councillor Nguyen.
Yes, I'll move that council return in camera for the rest of the matters to discuss under FOIP.
Thank you. The motion is now closed. Please cast your vote. All right. One more time. And we are back in camera. Thank you.